Alright, this is a compilation video of my facts, trivia, and error shorts from one of the Transformers films. I know this probably isn't the typical compilation video that you're used to watching, but hey, I hope you enjoy. Did you notice this error in Transformers Dark of the Moon? When we're introduced to Sam and Carly at the start of the film, Brains interrupts their makeout session. Sam picks up and carries Brains, but when the shot cuts, Brains is gone, even though Sam's hand looks like it's supposed to be carrying something. And when it cuts again, Brains is in his hand. It's very quick, but it is noticeable if you look. Did you notice this error in Transformers Dark of the Moon? At the end of the film, Sam and Carly are reunited. While they are talking to each other, you can notice that Carly's hands keep changing position. In some shots, they are on Sam's shoulders, and in others, they are on the sides of his head and neck. This is likely due to cutting between two different takes of the scene, but it is very noticeable. Did you notice this error with Sentinel Prime's shield in Transformers Dark of the Moon? In the final battle, Sentinel cuts off Optimus Prime's arm and is about to kill him. When he goes in for the killing blow, he drops his shield. In the next shot, when Megatron shoots Sentinel in a rage, you can see here that he still has the shield in his hand. But in the next shot of Megatron attacking Sentinel, you can see that the shield is gone from his hand again. This error is similar to one previously covered from the last night that involved Optimus Prime's shield doing basically the same thing. Obviously, this doesn't make or break the movie or anything, but like with all things I cover, this is just some neat trivia. Is this a CGI clipping error when Megatron sits on the Lincoln Memorial in Transformers Dark of the Moon? During the film, Megatron arrives in Washington, DC, walks up to the Lincoln Memorial and shoots it, and claims what's left as a sort of throne. In this shot here, it has been claimed by many that Megatron's feet clip through the Lincoln Memorial, specifically the bottom tire on his left foot. But if you look at the memorial, this may not be the case. The platform has two levels, with one being wider than the other, and you can see the two separate corners. These corners are visible beside Megatron's feet. It's especially apparent if you look at the scene brightened. While this has been commonly called out as an error, I'm not quite sure that it is. But what do you think? Is this actually an error? Let me know in the comments. Did you know about this concept art for Optimus Prime's jet wing, jetpack, and weapons from Transformers Dark of the Moon? As you can see in these pieces of art, Optimus Prime has his flight tech and guns, but they are completely different compared to what's in the finished film. The design of the jetpack and guns are completely different, with the jetpack only sharing the basic design features of the two engines and the four wings, and his guns being more akin to underslung Gatling guns. This may look familiar because this is the design that was used for the Jetwing Optimus Prime leader toy and its various different versions over the years. While this is different from what was in the film, I still think this is a pretty cool design. The jetpack is different enough to be cool, and I really dig those guns, although I do love what we got in the finished film as well. Did you notice this error with Ironhide's guns in Transformers Dark of the Moon? During the Mexican standoff scene, Ironhide, Sideswipe, Crankcase, and Crowbar all drop their weapons. But when Crowbar throws one of his spike bombs at Ironhide, you can see that Ironhide's guns are on his back. Then in this quick shot in the background, you can see that they are gone from Ironhide's back, and for the remainder of the fight, you can see that they are not on Ironhide's back and on the ground, with Ironhide picking them up and putting them on his back during his famous "Class dismissed" line. Some might say that he picked them up and put them on his back very quickly before Crowbar attacked, but that is highly unlikely given the situation, and it's unlikely that him being hit by a crowbar caused the weapons to fall in front of him in the same spot that he dropped them before. So while this isn't a big deal at the end of the day, this is certainly an error. Did you notice this CGI error in Transformers Dark of the Moon? In the final battle, Optimus Prime goes on a mile-long rampage, which leads him to Shockwave, who has his side ruptured and is then killed. But during the scene where he is punched, you can see that the hose that connects his gun to his back falls off, although there is another one underneath it. Shockwave does not have a second hose, nor does it somehow reattach. There's just another one underneath it. And in the next shot, you can see that the hose is still connected. So maybe the hose being damaged and falling off was an error, or maybe there was just some odd CGI technical cloning animation thing. I'm not entirely sure what's going on here. I've noticed this one for years, and it's always looked so weird to me. Alright, I just want to make a quick little follow-up on the video I did on Shockwave's cannon hose being an error in this scene here, which you can find the link to it both in the description and in the comments, and it turns out it is not. I have been fooled by a sort of illusion in the CGI this whole time. Despite it looking like the hose travels down with this falling piece here, it actually isn't. It's just moving in a similar way. So yeah, I was wrong on this one. I have no problem admitting that, and I'm sorry about that. I genuinely thought this was an error for so long. Despite double checking it before I made the actual short, seeing some comments, I triple triple checked it afterwards, and yeah, it's not an error, just a very weird illusion in the CGI. Did you notice this Nest Soldier die and miraculously come back in Transformers Dark of the Moon? Towards the end of the film, this Nest Soldier here, Stone, falls out of the collapsing building and dies in front of Shockwave, but he can be seen after his death trying to hide and even talking to everyone, and he can be seen later on in the film. It is a very odd bit of continuity there. I feel like this is a case of them wanting a death in this bit, and they just made a CGI double of one of the actors, but they forgot to remove his later scenes. In any case, it is a very odd error in the film, especially once you notice it. Did you notice Optimus Prime changed the time on this clock in Transformers Dark of the Moon? During the film, Optimus Prime returns to the battle and goes on a mile-long rampage. Just before he re-enters the fray, you can see him land on this building with the clock and propel himself off of it. As he does so, you can see that the force from his landing and push changed the clock. This even has its own sound effect. It may not be much, but I think it's a cool little detail. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to members of my Patreon. In my Average Bird tier, there is Schmoctimus Prime, and in my Birds of Prey tier, there is Austin Gillis and Darth Spooby. Your channel support is greatly appreciated. Thank you. As always, I want to give a big thanks to everyone for watching, and have a good one.